Human locomotion, or bipedal walking and running, is possibly one of the most efficient ways of moving. And in terms of energy expenditure, it is the most efficient, especially over long distances. Now, there's an article that's been published recently in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology, which deals with how the locomotion of hominins in the Pleistocene is not that different from us. Now, I'm going to share as usual, and hello everyone. Excuse me. This comes from the Centro Nacional de Investigación sobre la Evolución Humana. It's the article is published here. Well, I mentioned it here. Well, they were the researchers, in fact, and just hide this. We can start off in an article published recently in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology. Researchers from Paleophysiology and Ecology Group of the Centro Nacional de Investigación sobre la Evolución Humana in Barcelona, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've covered this center before. They've analyzed how the influence of our body proportions on the cost of locomotion, walking, means to us. They did an experiment where they measured the energy expenditure of 46 subjects, humans, us, both sexes, and the results indicate that the walk of Pleistocene hominins was no less efficient energetically than the current humans. Now, who are the Pleistocene hominins? Well, the Pleistocene basically covers non-H sapiens. I can't say the H word because it'll be demonetized, but Neanderthals, even H sapiens, us, Denisovans, our ancestors, and there's H heidelbergensis or H antecessor, H erectus. I hope this doesn't demonetize the channel Erectus, because bloody and they using the measurements from pelvis, the pelvic region, pelvises, the bones, the spines, the spinal curvature, etc. They using computers to basically reproduce how they walked, and also they would use analogies from modern primates like chimpanzees, etc., for the even earlier hominins, and they would then calculate how much energy was expended when, in this study, walking. But it's not just walking that this study should have been focused on; it's also running, because walking, bipedal walking, is efficient, but study which I haven't found yet, and I may link it later in the future, or when I can find it, comparing bipedalism with quadrupedal, four limbs, four members for how a four-legged animal walks compared to how a two-legged animal walks. In the walking stage, it's not that. I remember it, but I can't find it. I will find it, and I will link it in the description when I get it, and I'll add it to the description, that study that showed that in this case it is not that more efficient. But bipedalism comes into its own when it's running over long distances. Humans and our ancestors I even made a video. It's linked in the description where I talked about H. erectus. I called it the marathon man because the hunting strategy of that hominin, one of our ancestors, was to outrun its prey. Its stature, its physical build was made for running long distances. And it's in the description. I've linked the video in the description if you want to check back at it. It's there, so I won't touch too much on it. But H. erectus used a similar strategy that the San people of Southern Africa use to basically wear down their prey. They would continuously running, keep it moving without stopping until basically heat exhaustion would basically debilitate their prey. Whereas H. erectus, to us now, to H. sapiens, we could run long distances because we have the sweat glands. And that is one of the reasons which I believe that H. erectus did not have body hair, but was possibly naked, hairless like we are. I hope that word naked does not demonetize this video, which would be bloody a shame. But basically, that is what bipedalism it comes into its own when it's running. So the study says that traditionally it was thought that leaner skeletons of modern humans reflected biomechanical advantages which made locomotion a more efficient activity. Well, not just modern humans, like I said, H. erectus also had the biomechanical pieces already in existence for long distance running and walking. Bipedalism in our direct line, going back to Australopithecines and their ancestors, goes back to at least I think 7 million years. I think I did a video on it not recently. Out of the top of my head I can't remember, but at least 3.5 million years ago there was fully bipedal hominins in existence on Earth that only walked on two legs, not like the chimpanzees, how they semi walk on the two legs, on their two legs. They are not fully bipedal. So the slimmer pelvis of our species entails greater difficulty for childbirth, which is correct, but also reduces the force of the adductor muscles of the hip that exert them and to maintain the stability of the pelvis while walking. That is correct. While walking, you don't need as much of a muscle mass or skeletal mass, thickness, etc., to maintain a really efficient gait. We could walk huge distances without exerting that much energy expenditure, so without much real effort. And yes, the pelvis is possibly one of the factors, but not really, because as you can see from other hominins, Neanderthals, erectus, heidelbergensis, etc., they had pelvises slightly different than ours, different shapes, etc., and they had efficient gaits as well. I did that video on erectus. Nevertheless, Marco Vidal Cortasco, lead author of the article entitled "Energetic Costs of Walking in Fossil Hominins." It's behind the paywall, but I have the article in the description. Unfortunately, it's behind the paywall. I can only present that article. If you guys want to read it more, you guys know where to find it. I do as well, but I can't post them here. I have the actual full article already for my personal use. So anyway, but but that's just for my personal use, and it won't be divulged. So that doesn't imply that the hominins with wider pelvises expanded more energy walking. As I just said, in fact, the results obtained show that the wider pelvises at the height of the iliac crest allowed the energy cost of locomotion to be significantly lower. It also has many more factors: height, build, mass, the overall mass of the human that was the H, the hominin that made up that hominin specifically. So there's a whole lot of factors, but yes, walking on two legs is not that we don't use a lot of energy, but neither do four-legged animals, like I said before. Only walking. So yeah. Since 2 million years ago, because there's an upward metabolic readjustment. Of course there is. It goes to explain that since 2 million years ago, I'd say a bit yeah, H habilis, yes, about that time, a bit earlier, but more or less, with the appearance of H. augusta. See, I can't say that word, the H word. You guys can read it, but I can't say it. The body mass and the brain size of the hominins have risen significantly. Well, they've risen, they've dropped. It's been sort of up and down. Neanderthals were heavier built than us, even though they were shorter. The Erectus were taller than us on average. Well, they would have been the same 6 foot, more or less, over 6 foot. So they would have been more or less built like a NBA player, more or less. This is a slightly generalization, but close enough. They were big. One of the Tucana boy, which I mentioned in the video that's linked in my description, a marathon man, he was about 14, 15 years old. He was still in his teens, and he was already 6 foot. So you could see that the H. erectus grew. H. augusta, H. erectus. There's a bit of it's interchangeable for now. H. augusta and H. erectus. So yeah, they were tall and slim. In fact, slimmer than their bones weren't that. That was the gracile. That's the word we use in archaeology. They were lightly built for their total overall proportions. So the changes are entailed in important readjustment to metabolic level with the greater demand for energy to maintain these large organs. The organ that uses the most energy in our body, in all of the hominins, is the brain. 58%, more or less, 58% of our total energy expenditure is our brain. So, yes, you see what I mean? That's where most of the energy it goes to since habilis. That's when the brains of our ancestors, etc., kept growing, and the energy goes to there. We use 58, more or less. It's a rounded number. I'll go with a 58%. That's a good number. It's more than half, anyway, of our total energy expenditure is our brain. Then you have the kidney, the liver, and the muscles. But the muscles are short term because you don't use them always, especially the legs and so on, or arms, etc. You only use them when you're walking, hunting, etc. But the brain is always. However, our results show that the greater efficiency of locomotion was not a mechanism to compensate for the increase in size. Like I said, our lineage, the H lineage, human lineage, went small, then it went to tall in Erectus, Augusta. It went short and heavy in Neanderthals, possibly in Denisovans and Tessasaur, and it became semi-gracile to us now. we have a variation. Obviously, you have very heavy set humans as you have very, very gracile humans. That is our natural variation. Just so you guys should know. And the changes observed in the width of the pelvis and the length of the lower limbs did not reduce the cost of walking sufficiently to offset the rise of energy costing caused by increased in body mass. But that's where it's wrong, sort of wrong, semi-wrong, slightly inaccurate. That's the better word, because, like I said, the greater energy expenditure is our brain, and that is why the width of the pelvis is important, because bigger brains need to go through a hole in. You guys know how it works. I won't need to specifically specify, because I might get demonetized, which is really hurting my ego. Nothing else. I'm not making that much money, but it hurts my ego. I'm a bit egotistical in that aspect. I confess. I'm only doing it for my ego, to stroke my ego. Why I like to have it monetized. But as I said, I won't say how how a big head comes out. So that's basically it. And it's a short one today, 15 minutes, 16 minutes, and I'll just now say hello to the chat, because now I finished the article, I finished the stream, and I can just say hello to everyone. And there are some people that are lacking in sort of where is it? There we go. That's one, and there's another one. I think I've repaired the my lack. What the? You too. Why not? I'm being generous today. Who else is not? Yeah, yeah. Why not? Oh, everyone. Today, everyone's getting a sort of a thank you for being on my stream present. I think I've done everyone. You guys all have a spanner, correct? Say yes in the chat. Those who have, those who haven't. Now, specifically, let me answer the Batman's question. Right, I remember what the God damn it. Yeah, I haven't stopped the stream. Why isn't it? There we go. Sabida, H. Sabida, that's a new species, beach. I will talk to him. Wait, why isn't what's happening here? That's not correct. Oh, now it's correct. You are. Let me see. Where's here we go. Thank you, Beach. Let's see. I remember reading our ancestors began to become bipedal when the rainforest of Africa began to turn into grasslands. No, I did. I covered that. Not, I think not the last video, but the video before that, talking about one of the videos where I talked about that scientists, the United Nations have been classifying dry forests and savannas differently. That they are not the same, and actually, no, we did evolve in the transition between dry forests, not rainforests. They would have been earlier, or something dry forests and savannas. That intermediate phase bit where I talked about it. If you want to go, if you want to see it, let me just bring up my channel so I can find the video, and I'll link it here in the description. That's weird. But I talked about that, so yeah. What else? Any other questions? Thank you, Beach, about the nice article. I found that okay for today. Thank you, Batman, for it is. I try to do my education. I love these type of video. Let's see, which one was it? The one I talk about. It may have been the. The December the 4th. I think there was more than one article in there. Let me just check. I talked about, let's see. Yes, it's the December the 4th. Um, I'll link it. This is for you, the Batman. It's the first article I talk about. Oh, Archaeology, how are you, man? Long time. So, let me see. Good. Anything else to answer? Neanderthals were pretty much developed for life near the glaciers at the yes, Europe, Eurasia. They seem to have gone almost into the area of what is now China, and then they have the. This is Batman's question. Neanderthals were pretty much developed life near the glaciers at the end of the Ice Age. Yes, all of Europe, Asia, Middle Western Asia, and almost into the close to China, in fact. So yeah, yeah, man, Kianami, I hope you're doing well, man. Uh, and I wish I could was closer to help you in any other way. I'm just too far. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. My daughter wants to continue to watch her movies on the computer, so I'll catch you on Monday. I have another stream, obviously. So until then, good night, everyone, and thank you for coming along.